Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Everyone, welcome to this presentation on Iman and Amal Saleh. Amal Saleh is normally translated as righteous deeds. For further reference, I have put down two books by Allama Parvez, What is Islam? The Human Self and Allah. Outline of the presentation, defining Amal Saleh. Iman and Saleh deeds lead to a life of Jannat. Deeds without Iman cannot develop self for the hereafter. Verses emphasizing various aspects of Iman and Saleh deeds, how to scale our thinking and deeds. More verses putting light on more aspects, what effect Saleh deeds have on ourselves, and conclusions. Now first we will look at the root word, what is Saleh? Root word is STLH, which is Sad, Lam, and Ha. Some of the meanings and derivatives are noted below. For anyone who would like to see more details, they should consult Lughat al-Quran, please. It means mutual peace and security. Anything which is meant to be in a particular state, it is precisely in that state. That is, if something is meant to be in a particular condition or a state, then it should stay like that, then it is in a state of Saleh. For example, all human beings must be respected, and each one needs to be in that state of respect. Removing any weaknesses, limitations, and imbalances, affairs are settled amicably. Such tasks, because of which human latent potentials become manifested, and in this way ability is created within him to go through the evolutionary stages of life. So that is important to understand, that these are those deeds which turn one into something which can go through further evolutionary stages. Tasks through which balance and beauty of a society remains established and imbalances become removed, those which bring along the pleasantries of life. Doing precisely those tasks which are according to the demand of the time and compatible with the laws of Allah. So it is not something fixed. These will change as the times will change. So the forms will change, the shape will change, but the fundamentals will not change. And these must be compatible with the laws of Allah. Those tasks which enhance potentials and abilities, that is, they give empowerment and enhance understanding. So there should be a change in oneself who is doing Saleh deeds. Only those deeds are Saleh which are declared by the Quran as such. Deeds will not be Saleh if there is no Iman. So this is important to understand, that after Iman, the deeds which we do as per the Quran, following Allah's laws and permanent values within those, whatever is noted in the Quran, then these become Saleh. What are Saleh Amal? That is deeds and work. These are interchangeable terms. The root of Amal is An Mim Lam, means work. This word is spoken for that work or task which is committed deliberately by a living being. So animals don't do Amal. It is human beings who do Amal. It is also essential for this that work is not done merely by chance, but it is done commonly. That is, it is ordinarily performed. What it means is that in our day-to-day life. Iman is the name of accepting the truth of Allah's commands and laws with the full connivance of heart and mind. And Amal is the name of living life in accordance with these laws. We already had a presentation on Iman, so we can always go back and have a look. That Iman whose evidence is not provided by the human deeds in life is a merely customary acknowledgement which accrues no benefit. So it is important that is evidence of the Iman is that it should lead to these Saleh deeds. And those tasks whose motivation is not the human Iman, those are either performed mechanically or as a procedure and under the direction of emotive sentiments. Only those are productive deeds which are carried out with the following in mind: with the full agreement of human heart and mind, with the full involvement of the consciousness, with deliberate intent. All these points will become clear as we will go through different verses. And the whole life of man is molded according to this. Now, first we will look at all kinds of pleasant outcomes or consequence of Iman and Amal Saleh, which should lead to the life of Jannat. What I've done over here is I've noted some points so that it sets the scene for our subsequent presentation. First is that in a Jannat, there should be freedom from fear and grief. That is, Iman and Amal Saleh should lead to a system which should be free from fear and grief. Successes and pleasantries of the physical means of sustenance achieved through the understanding and working of the law of requital. So in all our work, we should keep it in mind that law of requital is working in the world and we are fully conscious of it. Abundance of means of sustenance which remain unceasing and made available to everyone. So we should understand that. There is respect and dignity for every member, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, being human, not mechanical feeling and sentiment to support it. So in a system which is based on Iman and Amal Saleh, the foundations of which is on Iman and Amal Saleh, in that it is not mechanically people should respect each other, it should be from the bottom of their heart and their mind must understand it. Equality for everyone before the Quranic laws and values. This will not be mechanical again, but be perceived at the self's level. Everyone knows their rights and responsibilities across the flat structure. All opportunities made available for everyone to be able to develop their own self. Necessary education and training will be made available, no indoctrination. This will be absolutely free from any compulsion and coercion. So over here, what I've done is I've jotted down some points to keep it in mind as we will go through the rest of the presentation. Everyone will be made aware of all the permanent values of the Quran and the divine attributes. These will be adequately explained and disseminated. All will be informed about their freedom to choose, and no form of persuasion will be used to compel anyone. However, the functioning of the system of Deen will be laid bare before everyone. Comparison with the man-made systems will be made available. Maximum education will be provided on the need for the development of the human intellect and reasoning, leading to the development of the self. The human self will form part of everything people do. So in a Jannat, in a society based on Deen, will have a very high level of consciousness in every member. Of course, it is their choice as well, but efforts will be made that everyone rises to a very high level of consciousness. Now, over here, I've put down some points on deeds not preceded by Iman cannot develop self for the hereafter. That is, if there is no Iman, according to the Quran, then that self cannot become compatible with the needs of the hereafter. First is our actions are preceded by our desires and motivation. We know it that whatever we do, we first think about it. And these are within the value system, our own value system and the value system in which we live. Each of our deeds has an impact on ourselves. The deeds carried out without any desire for the hereafter, for example, if someone has rejected the hereafter, doubted the hereafter, considered human creation having no purpose, religious beliefs about the hereafter, in all cases, the self for the hereafter will never develop. And we have gone through some of these points earlier as well. The self required for the hereafter, as stated by the Quran, needs Iman, and then this Iman should lead to doing those deeds which are mentioned within the Quran, leading to the system of Deen. The Quran has mentioned deeds at self's level which bring balance in the lives of those who are helped. These deeds cater for physical needs as well as the needs of the self. We should keep it in mind that it is both physical needs and the needs of the self which have to be kept in mind. And this point will become very clear when we go through the rest of the presentation. The Quran has also mentioned actions which we take to stay away from evil despite temptations. Never be part of it and which may become rampant if not checked in time. Next is the promotion of good and forbidding of evil also falls under the category of deeds as this keeps balance in the society. Iman leads to recognition of the issues of the human existence. This includes both physical needs as well as the needs of the human self. It helps to view the life as one continuity, i.e. physical life ending with death, while life of the self continuing beyond the physical death. Recognizing this fact is part of the sign of the strength of our own Iman. Failure to do so means that we need to do more work on strengthening our Iman. So people who refuse or fail to come to the Quranic guidance contribute directly and indirectly to perpetuation of the continuation of fear and grief in the human world. Even they do a lot even if they do a lot of charitable work for their own satisfaction. So the point over here is, which we have discussed previously as well, that if there is a fear and grief in human world, then we need to work to remove that fear and grief. And to be able to remove that, we have to come to the Quran. So that is the fundamental. And that is something which we should keep it in mind while judging ourselves as well as others. Now, correct Iman will always lead us to Saleh deeds. Now, over here, I've quoted some verses which I thought we'll share. La yastazinuka allazina yu'minuna billahi wal yawmil akhir an yujahidu bi amwalihim wa anfusihim wallahu alimun bil muttaqin. Now, this is in relation to some fight on which for jihad the mu'mineen had to go with Rasulullah. And what the Quran says is, those who have Iman in Allah and the last day ask for no exemption from fighting, jahidu, with their wealth and persons. And Allah knows well who are muttaqi. So there should be no resistance within our own self as well. In fact, we should be more than willing, rather we should be looking for an opportunity to do this. So this is what the Quran said over here, that we should look at our own inner self, that is there a resistance towards the system of deen or not. Second one is, innama yastazinuka kallazina la yu'minuna billahi wal yawmil akhir wartabat qulubuhum fahum fi raybihim yataraddadun. But the people who do not have Iman in Allah, so this is what Quran is saying, and the hereafter, and who have doubts in their hearts. Now this is important, and that is why they become reluctant. Yataraddaduna. So this is something which we have to remove. And if we are telling someone, then we have to go through the psychology of it. That whatever we are doing after coming to the Quran, we shouldn't have any doubts. We shouldn't have any resistance to going forward. Saleh deeds are those which meet the Quranic criteria. Again, over here, some verses I would like to share. Ajaltum sikayatal ha'ajje wa imarata masjid al-harami kaman amana billahi wal yawmil akhir wa jahada fi sabilillahi la yastauna indallahi wallahu la yahdil qawm az-zalimin. It's a very interesting verse which is in Surah Tawbah, that Quran says, do you make the giving of drink to pilgrims or the maintenance of Masjid al-Haram equal to those who have Iman in Allah and the last day? And is it equivalent to striving with might and main in the path of Allah? There's a question mark here. La yastauna indallah, that in the sight of Allah, they are not equal. And Allah guides not those who do zulm. Imagine the Quran has called it zulm if we are not doing those saleh deeds, which Quran says are saleh deeds, and instead we divert our attention to these things. And if you remember, we have already gone through that verse, Laisal birran tawallu wujuhakum qibal al-mashriqi wal maghribi. If we thought that we will get bir by facing east or west, then we are sadly mistaken. So we should keep it in mind that saleh deeds are those which are protective, and they have got the support of the Quran. Allazina amanu wa hajaru wa jahadu fi sabilillahi bi amwalihim wa anfusihim azamu darajatan indallahi wa ulaika humul faizun. Very self-explanatory, that all those who have got Iman, and they are the ones who are willing to take any steps to make efforts in this direction. Over here it makes it very clear, bi amwalihim wa anfusihim. Now next we will have a look on Amal Saleh, which are preceded by Iman. It leads to acquisition of power, slowly and surely building it up. Now over here Quran says, Man kana yuridul izzata falillahi il izzatu jamiya ilayhi yasadul kalimul tayyibu wal amalu salihu yarfa'u wallazina yamkuruna sayyiati lahum azabun shadidun wa makru ulaika huwa yabur. I will not go the second part of this verse. I will go through the first one, which is the relevant one for which I quoted this verse. Over here, Quran says that anyone who has an intention or a desire to get power, and Quran says all power is with Allah. So according to His law, the power does come to mu'mineen. How does it come? Ilayhi yasadu kalimul tayyibu. Now this is the part where Iman comes in. And then Quran says, this, if you have done this, then what you should do is وَعَمَلُ صَالِحُ يَرْفَعُ, that your righteous deeds, which are in line with the Quran, these will go up. So this is a very precise formula, like chemistry's formula, exact formula. Now, the next verse will make it even clearer. وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ. So Allah over here is making a promise. What is the promise? That all those who have Iman, وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, salih deeds, لَا يَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ fil ard, they will be established in the land. Kama astakhlafa allazina min qablihim. So Quran gives evidence as well that look at the history, they were established. For example, today for us from the history is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. Wala yumakkinanna lahum dinuhum allazi artada lahum, that he will establish their deen for them. See Quran how makes it very clear. The same one. How do you get power? وَلَا يُبَدِّلَنَّهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ خَوْفِهِمْ أَمْنًا. So over here, Quran also makes it clear that the fear, khawf and huzn in which you are living, it will be turned into peace. يَعْبُدُونَنِي. So follow my laws, that is, follow the book. لَا يُشْرِكُونَ بِي شَيْئًا. Do not mix up with this formula which we are giving you. Make sure that you do not go against this formula at any stage. وَمَنْ كَفَرَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ. And if you go against it, then remember, you will again go back to the same position which existed before getting this power. So it makes it very clear. Now I have explained it with a schematic. And over here, what I've done is I've taken it forward, which I've already explained, that Allah has promised to those with Iman and Amal Saleh that he will make them establish them in the land, will establish deen so that their state changes into peace after fear in which they lived. They need to ensure no shirk takes place and no reversion to kufr takes place. So this is a flow forward. Now let us look at the backward. In the backward is that if we are being in a state of kufr, turn to Allah and not do shirk. That is, presently the state is of fasikun. If we look at the whole of Muslim world, that is the state we will find them in. Then it says, so first thing is to understand this and don't do shirk, at least at the conceptual level. Then it says living in a state of fear and grief, which it turns into peace and security. So this is the next stage. We must understand that fear and grief is because of this. Then go back and see, study deen in detail and accept Iman and do saleh deeds individually and then collectively. So once we do individually, then we must come together and then proceed forward together. This point will become further clear later. Then Allah will fulfill his promise. Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen acquires power, and 35:10, which I've quoted earlier. So we should look at this verse forward as well as backward, and let's have another look, which I've drawn a schematic here. What I've done is I have drawn two axes. One is over here is saleh deeds and work, and over here is Iman. So if there are no saleh deeds, Iman is of no use. And saleh deeds are of no use if there is no Iman. So there have to be both. And what happens is that gradually with time, we go up gradually. Initially, it looks very slow, the whole process. But suddenly, we get an exponential rise in that. Now, this is very interesting, which we should keep it in mind, and we will discuss it at some other point later on. Over here, I have written Iman and Saleh deeds as a combination. It's an extremely powerful combination, particularly once people or mu'minin come together. And they progress from individual to a collective pattern with time. Initially, it appears not much is occurring like the growth of a seed. Gradually, however, the number and strength builds up. So we should keep these two verses in mind. Now, let us look at some of the more verses lead to elimination of fear and grief. Now, here are some verses which are from Surah Al-Baqarah. Allazina yunfikuna amwalahum bil-layli wan-nahari sirran wa alaniyatan falahum ajruhum inda rabbihim. See rububiyyat here. Wala khawfun alayhim wala hum yahzanun. So the Quran says that those who make their possessions available, freely available, by night and by day. And over here, interesting is that over here, we should keep it in mind that within the capitalist system, Quran recognizes that these accumulation of wealth will take place in some hands. So those who have come to the Quran, they should become extremely aware of it. Alaniyatan, that is, they should secretly as well, if they're doing it individually, if they're doing it collectively, then as a system as well, gradually. And their reward is from Rabbihim. So over here, the Rububiyyat will start taking place if we do this. And as a result, we will understand why there is fear and why there is huzn in the society. It doesn't mean that my fear and huzn is removed because I've got plenty of wealth and my all problems are solved within the capitalist system. We must not let our mind go in that direction. It's a diversion. It is a self-justification of something which is wrong. The system is wrong. Over here, Quran is telling the psychology of khawf and huzn we have to understand, which will be removed in the system of deen. Now next is قُلْ نَهْبِطُوا مِنْهَا جَمِيعًا فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُم مِّنِّي هُدًى فَمَن تَبِعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Quran makes it clear itself. Over here, it is all about the collective system. If you remember in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the story of Adam, over here, Quran has said that you all go down. You have already gone down because of your deeds. From our side, guidance will come. And if you all follow it, then you will have no fear and no grief because you will establish a system. The next is وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. Over here, the Quran, right in the next verse 239, I thought I'll quote it here, that Quran has clearly said that if Kafaru and Kazzabu have established the system, then you will all live in fire. And we can see it. It's everywhere. I don't think we need any more evidence. Hum fiha khalidun, and you will continue to live in that. And if we haven't made this effort here, then of course we can see what is going to happen in the hereafter as well. So it is not an option. Iman and Amal Saleh is not an option for people who have come within the guidance of the Quran. These people own the word, hence fear and grief. So this is very obviously in front of us. Now, next one is, now I've done some scaling of Amal Saleh, whichever I could think of it, and others can also make an effort and add to this list. Iman over here has to meet the criteria laid down by the Quran. This needs to be verified through deeds. So Iman adds a significantly higher scale to the development of ourselves. Then is what we say or proclaim, it should be carried out. If we have made a commitment, we must carry it out. It is very important that we should be conscious of it. If ourself makes a commitment and doesn't fulfill, then what happens is ourself does not go forward. If a thought has come to help someone, we have the means, then try not delay it. It degrades human self. It's very important that if I thought of helping someone and I've got the means, I must help him or her very quickly, as quickly as possible, because the longer that thought lingers on within me and the longer that those possessions stay with me, that means longer myself will not develop, rather it will go down. Allah's companionship is available through deeds. We must feel His presence. Iman is verified through deeds. Keep reminding own self. This reminding is absolutely essential if we want to raise the level of our doing good deeds. Deeds done individually have lower scale than those which are part of a collective set of mu'mineen. We must remember that it is directly proportional. Our self goes higher if we come together and do something than doing it individually. For example, if I could do the same deed individually, but I could also do the same deed collectively, then doing collectively will have a multiplied reward. That is, self will go up and we will feel it. It's not something which we don't know. We'll come to that at some point, that how the self feels within itself, within its own psyche. Deeds which involve full participation of the human self, they have a higher scale. Deeds which cater for the physical needs as well as the needs of the self. Very important. If I'm helping or we are helping someone, we should also look at the state of the self of those, not just helping them materially and then going away. It has to be followed by understanding of their self and relating it to our own self, because we are in a process of establishing the system of deen. And in the system of deen, we deal with human self, helping on long-term basis until others can stand on their own feet, developing human bond with other human beings, very important. After doing a deed, not to negatively ruminate over it. I've seen it that sometimes people help and then they say, I don't know if I've rightly helped them. Come on, you have got rid of the money or got rid of whatever you wanted to do, then move on. Don't think about it. It is mata'ul hayati dunya. And that is part of our self-development process. Never ever ruminate over it. Remember, it's the wrong system which has forced others to seek help. We should keep it in mind that when we get rid of our spare possessions, we are getting rid of what shouldn't have gone to us in the first place. Under the system of deen, this situation will never arise. This needs to be kept in mind all the time. Elimination of doubts and suspicions is part of the procedure of applying the Quranic values. I hope this point becomes clearer, that it is of a lower scale, that if we give it to someone, then ruminate over it and get suspicions about it, than to think that it is because of the wrong system that I got it and I should pass it on to others. Even if in the wrong system, I have earned it. I've seen people who say that, oh, I have done a lot of work. And it doesn't matter. It is the wrong system which is allowing us to accumulate in the first place. When helping on a regular basis, if possible, take into account inflation and increase in market prices. Never let this thought cross our mind, not my problem. No pain, no gain. Inquire actively about the needy in case there are spare resources available. Make effort to multiply resources. Discuss with other mu'mineen where possible. Very important. Always take into account own better start in life, but by virtue of better parents, better education, better intellectual abilities, better family. Compare with the conditions of a poor child. Related to the capitalist system on a continuous basis. Self develops rapidly when we react to the unjust system and its flaws. Deeds with this perspective in mind take off at an exponential rate. Now, let me explain it with an example. That if someone is born in a rich family, right, he gets a better start as compared to a child born in a poor family. For example, some farmer or somewhere in a remote village. The one born in a rich family will have all the facilities. He or she later on gets a good job. And at some point, they read the Quran and read Allama Parvez and come to the system of deen. Now they have reached that stage because of a better start at the beginning. And that they should keep it in mind, that what proportion of that disability or handicap the poor are suffering. And that helps to understand the system of deen. And that increases our own consciousness to a very high level. And that should motivate us. And Allama Parvez has discussed this in detail in his book on Rububiyat and also what is Islam. We must have a look in that, because I have seen referring to many our members, and sometimes they simply don't understand it. I must say it frankly. And it must be understood, because that is the way we understand that how the wrong system creates poor and how the wrong system creates rich. High value thoughts and deeds. Now let us have some of the verses over here. These are amazing verses. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu la tubtilu sadaqatikum bil manni wal adha. Now Quran has made it very clear that, and we should keep it in mind, mu'mineen are being addressed here, not kafaru, not mushrikeen, not munafiki, mu'mineen. That means the others will do it. La tubtilu, don't make it batil, don't falsify it. Whatever you are giving in the path of Allah, by reminding them and by giving them pain, by telling some fellow or even on their back telling that I gave him this and this is what he has done. We cannot do it. Absolutely zero feeling we should have in our heart that I have given it for the establishment of the system of deen. So that is why Allah has said that they are the ones who do not ask for they don't want even a thank you for that. And they shouldn't, because what they have got is because of the wrong system created by human beings. Why should they ask for a thank you? They shouldn't have it in the first place. Kallazi yunfiqu malahu riyal nase wala yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir. I will say that if we can read the rest of the verse, but this is the one which I highlighted over here, that do not even let the thought come in our heart, in our mind, that I have given him that, and at some point, if they haven't said thank you, or if they have done something wrong, and we say, oh, I gave him the money and still he is doing wrong. We have no right to do that. Wallahu la yahdil qawmal kafirin, and Quran calls it kufr. This wal manne wal azar. Remember, there was a verse I quoted previously where some of Muslims used to come to Rasulullah and say that we are doing favor to you by becoming Muslims. Now next is matalul lazina yunfikuna amwalahum mubtaga'a mardatillah wa tasbitam min anfusihim. See over here, the Quran says that those who keep their possessions available to others. Why? Because mardatillah, because they want to establish the system of deen, because this is what Allah wants. This is what the Quran wants. And what happens is, as a consequence, their nafs becomes strengthened. See, tasbitan establishes, becomes very strong, strengthens. Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. I will not go through the rest of the verse. We can have a look ourselves. But Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. He knows what we are doing. See, Amale Saleh, basir, and he knows it. And this is how the deen, system of deen, will also assess each other. Next one. Aya waddu ahdakum an takuna lahu jannatun min nakhilin wa anabin tajri min tahtiha al-anharu lahu fiha min kulli samarati wa asabahu al-qabaru wa lahu zurriyatun zufau fa asbaha isarun fihi narun wa ahtarakat kazalika yubayyinu Allahu lakum ayati la'allakum tatafakkarun. Now over here, this is a very interesting verse in which, example, the Quran has given the example of one person who is well off. He's got a garden and with vines and streams and everything, but he's old and has children and who are not strong. And Quran says that it is possible that if his garden is destroyed by a whirlwind and with fire therein and be burnt up, what will happen is he will lose everything. And that does Allah make clear to you that you intensely reflect on it. If we look at it at a single, as an individual example, we will say, oh, we should take care of everything. What Quran is telling over here is about the need for the system of deen. It's not individual example, which we, of course, in a capitalist system, we should take precautions that people have insurance and all these different securities. But over here, Quran is pointing our attention, drawing our attention towards the system of deen. A real life scenario of a man-made system is painted here before us by the Quran. The strength and vulnerability of the system is highlighted here. Despite all physical bounties, there is underlying uncertainty and fear. Needs our profound reflection. That what Quran is pointing is that fear under it, the economic fear because of the wrong system. The verse also points to making this world a beautiful place to live, physical as well as free from all types of fear and huzn. Exactly, going back to the same point which we have shared earlier. The verses before and after put it in the realm of possibilities, need our acceptance, and then make efforts for the system of deen. The Quran turns issues to real-time scenarios of the human world and then asks, what am I going to do about it? So that is the question which we have to ask ourselves. That if this situation exists, and it does exist, so what are we going to do about it? So if we read the verses before and after, things will become very clear. Now over here, I have related some of the verses to 6 divine attributes with evidence for our self-growth. The first one is, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu anfiqu, again, keeping possessions available. Min tayyibati, ma kasabtum. Over here, Quran says, whatever you have earned, tayyibat, pure and good. Wa mimma akhrajna lakum min al-ardi, wa la tayammamul khabisa minhu, tunfikuna wa lastum bi'akhizihi, illa an tughmidu fihi, wa alamu anna Allaha ghaniyyun hamid. Over here, Quran says that whatever we have produced for you, then once you are making it available to others, do not even aim at getting anything which is bad, in order that out of it you may give away something when you yourselves would not receive it except with closed eyes. As we have seen in the West, they collect all these old clothes for charities and other things. And the Quran has forbidden us from that here. And know that Allah is free of all wants and deserves hamd. So Quran is pointing us to the establishment of deen. Of course, in a transitory stages, even these old clothes are a blessing for someone who doesn't have clothes. But it is a great instruction for all of us. Ash-shaytanu ya'idukum faqra wa ya'murukum bil fahsha'i. Shaitan, our desires, our emotions, intellect, what it will do is, it will tell us that don't give it to others. Don't keep it open. You will go poor. Wa ya'murukum bil fahsha'i. See, the both are related. Wallahu ya'idukum maghfiratum minhum. But Allah is inviting us towards protection. Fadlan, and towards this fadl, we all know it's the blessings, bounties, favors, everything comes under fadl. Wallahu wasi'un ali. See, the two attributes have appeared here. And over here in these two verses, divine attributes referred are Ghani, Hamid, Fadl, Ghafur, Wasi, Ali. Following the guidance provided in these verses, we commence to display these attributes in ourselves, essential for the understanding of the system of deen. See how Quran in 2 verses is giving us all these divine attributes, the 6 divine attributes right in front of us. That if you do this, you will get a feel of these 6 divine attributes. And we will come to this once we come to the concept of Allah and on divine attributes. Now let's look at some more Saleh conducts. So Saleh conduct, what it does is, after Iman, it provides a strength of character. Now over here, Quran says, Yutil hikmata man yasha'u, that you get hikmat, you get wisdom. How? وَمَنْ يُوتَ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. That you will get it in a great amount, in a massive amount. وَمَا يَذَكَّرُ إِلَّا أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. See over here, this is 269. If we see, these are the same verses coming in continuity. If we read those, we will come to know that how the system of deen, that is the economic system, comes right in front of us. It emerges very clearly. In tubdu sadaqate fane imma hiya wa in tukhfuha wa tutuhal fuqara fahuwa khairul lakum wa yukaffiru ankum min sayyiatikum wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir. So over here, Quran says that if you disclose your sadaqat, whatever you are making available for others, if you disclose it, it is fine. Particularly in a collective sense, these have to be disclosed because people should know what is due to them. But if you keep it concealed, that is at an individual level, and make them reach those in need, that is best for you. Because whole effort is to develop ourselves for the system of deen. It will remove some of your bad effects. Very important that some of the bad effects which is happening in the society, and even if these are within us, we will be able to find out that where are our weaknesses. And Allah is well acquainted with what you do. Now over here, I have summed it up. These verses should be applied to individual as well as the collective efforts. 2 scales are defined in, for example, 271. At individual level, it is wiser to do it quietly. And at collective level, better let people know the arrangement. In deen, all will be an open matter so that people take it as their right until the system becomes fully operational. Of course, if we are going towards the system of deen, it will take time to establish it. Then people will know their rights and responsibilities. If we imagine that transitional even phase will be a brilliant phase going from the man-made system and going towards the system of deen, where people will willingly come forward. Not everyone, but we'll have to motivate them. How are deeds judged? وَقُلْ عَمِلُوا فَسَيَرَ اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَسَتُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ فَيُنَبِّئُكُم بِمَا كُنتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. And say, work, soon will Allah observe your work and His Rasool and Mu'mineen. See, all 3 are now in a role of judgment, assessment, evaluation. Soon will you be brought back to the knower of what is hidden and what is open. Then He will show you the truth of all that you do. So the Quran has put emphasis over here that we should judge each other, and from a, of course, from a good perspective, not from a critical perspective, because we have to move forward. If we don't know what are our weaknesses, we are not going to gain strength. Accountability should be viewed as follows. When there is no system of deen, we need to hold our own self accountable, exactly the way it will be under the system of deen, becoming conscious of the existence of the law of requital. When we come together prior to the system of deen, we keep reminding each other on a continuous basis. We should never feel uncomfortable with this reminding, as in the system of deen, this pattern will be followed. Human beings need repetition and practice, and we have to continuously remind each other. Under the system of deen, this will be practiced on a continuous basis, promote maroof and forbid munkar. Never let guard down, very alert and vigilant. We should keep it in mind that if a system of deen is established, that if we did shirk and disobeyed Allah's laws, then we will become fasiqun, as we have gone through one of the verses. Grading is as per deeds. وَلَكُلِّ دَرَجَاتٌ مِمَّا عَمِلُوا. So all grading system is according to the deeds. وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِغَافِلٍ أَمَّا يَعْمَلُونَ. So the system will be aware of it. So we should keep it in mind. The system will be geared or educated in a way that people will become fully aware of it. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَهَاجَرُوا وَجَاهَدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ وَأَنفُسِهِمْ أَعْظَمُ دَرَجَاتًا عِندَ اللَّهِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَائِزُونَ. So over here, Quran makes it very clear that these grades are according to the efforts we make. So we will know that people, and best is that using the law of requital, everyone should do their own judgment, because people should willingly come forward and say that we are doing our best to upgrade our own self. وَمَنْ جَاءَتِهِ مُؤْمِنًا قَدْ عَمِلَ صَالِحَاتٍ فَأُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمُ الدَّرَجَاتُ الْأُولَى. But such as comes to him as a moment who have done saleh work, for them are ranks elevated. So once after Eimaan, acquiring Eimaan, we do amal saleh, we know ourselves that our self is getting better. And we know these things already. But over here, we are just trying to reinforce it, and for the good of those who are going to join later. Now over here, what I have done is I have put down some verses which show that we have to do it together. And that is important, because that is how the self develops more rapidly. It goes into exponential mode. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha wa kunu ma'as sadiqin. Very famous verse, that all those who have accepted Eimaan, they should also become muttaqi by knowing what Allah has asked them to do. Wa kunu ma'as sadiqin, and join those who are already on that path. ما كان لأهل المدينة ومن حولهم من الأعراب أن يتخلفوا عن رسول الله ولا يرغبوا بأنفسهم عن نفسه ذلك بأنهم لا يصيبهم ظمأ ولا نصب ولا مخمصة في سبيل الله ولا يطعون موطئا يغيظ الكفار ولا ينالون من عدو نيلا إلا كتب لهم به عمل صالح إن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين. Now over here, why I quoted this, that what Quran has noted over here is that because nothing could they suffer or do but was reckoned to their credit as a deed of righteousness. So I have highlighted this. We can have a look in our own time in this verse, that everything which we do once we come together, then it becomes of a very high scale, that nothing goes unnoticed in the book of Allah. So it adds to our self-development very rapidly. And over here, Quran says, Kutiba lahum bihi amalun salihan. So over here, that nothing goes wasted. And that is why Quran says that this goes as a amala salih, that deed which takes us forward. Inna Allah la yudiyun ajr al-muhsinin. It sums it up very well. Now next is wala yunfikuna nafaqatun sagiratan wala kabiratan wala yaqtauna wadiyan illa kutiba lahum liyajziyahumullahu asana ma kanu ya'malun. Over here, the Quran has again said that even smallest are the biggest, and whatever they are doing. if they are even traveling through a valley, it is not possible that they will not get rewarded for that. The self goes forward, the self goes up. So all our efforts, when we come together and make an effort, even these efforts where we come together and share these presentations, it does contribute to ourselves because it comes under an act. So in collective efforts, even a minor act becomes multiplied and it has a higher scale. So we should keep it in mind. Now over here, وَإِذَا مَا أُنزِلَتْ سُورَةٌ فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَقُولُ أَيُّكُمْ زَادَتْهُ هَذِهِ إِيمَانًا فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فَزَادَهُمْ إِيمَانًا هُمْ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ. Over here, what Quran has said is that when a new surah used to be recited or was revealed, and some of them used to say, which of you has had his iman increased by it? And those who had iman, they will say, yes, it has increased our iman. So wherever, even if when we are feeling it down, we should go back to the Quran and go through a section of it and try to see the forward as well as the backward so that we get strength. Quran does give strength, and do it together or do it individually. Both ways, it is very important. So over here, I thought, share it again. The Quran over here makes it very clear. Normal translation is that Allah does not put burden more than a self can bear. I will take it at slightly a wider context, and that is that we have that wusat, we have that vastness within ourselves. And whatever is in the Quran, we have the ability to absorb everything and do whatever Quran is asking us to do. Whatever is noted in the Quran, human nafs has the potential to bear this responsibility. So we should not go with these translations. We should look at it in a wider context. فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمْ إِن لَّمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَٰذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَسَفًا. Over here, I quoted this verse because I thought in the functioning of the system of deen, we should know that we should not suffer from any grief. At an initial stages, yes, we want everyone to come to the Quran, but we will see, we have already seen it. A lot of people don't want to, I'll not say majority, but they don't want to come to the Quran because they want to follow the same path which their forefathers followed or which the majority follows. So one should not waste any thoughts on that. That might be true at an initial stage. But later stage, we should come to this conclusion that the only self which can change is my own. And to change that self, I should understand that other self will only change once they wish to change. So if they are following a particular path, I have no right to become worried about their path. It is their choice. Inna ja'alna ma'alal arde zinatan laha linabluwahum ayyuhum ahsanu amala. Very important, we should understand this. This has been created like this. We have to grow out of it. Allah has created this world the way we find it under the man-made system. And He wants us to create our new self and then through Amal Saleh, develop it and take it to those heights where we can understand the system of deen, and then we can get power for that. Al-malu wal-banuna zinatul hayatid dunya. وَالْبَاقِيَاتُ الصَّالِحَاتُ خَيْرٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ ثَوَابًا وَخَيْرٌ أَمَلًا. And Quran has again the same verse over here is repeated in a slightly different way and says these are the allurements of this world, but the things that endure are Saleh deeds. So that is important because it is through Saleh deeds, first Iman and Saleh deeds, we will get power. Our best in the sight of your Rabb. See, again, Rububiyat has come here as rewards and best as an expectation. So wherever Rabb comes, I try to see in that context that which aspect of Rububiyat has been mentioned over here. Because repeated emphasis in our own mind gives us that focus which is required for the system of deen. Now over here, there are some more verses. قُلْ لَا يَسْتَوِي الْخَبِيثُ وَالْطَيِّبُ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكَ كَثْرَةُ الْخَبِيثِ فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Over here, Quran says that even if there is a plenty of evil in the world, doesn't matter. Remember, you are tayyib, and the others who are not following the Quran come in this category. So think about it. become muttaqi, and you will. Tuflihun is like a seed which grows out of the soil if the right conditions are provided. So over here, Quran clearly says that Rasulullah is also Bashar. Yuha ilayya annama ilahukum ilahum wahidu. فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَاتِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. The Quran has beautifully summed up at the end of Surah Kaf that this Wahi is the one which is going to take you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabb. That is the system of Rububiyyat. And do amal, those deeds which are Saleh, and do not go towards shirk, and which means have that Iman, that purified, pristine Iman which the Quran has given us, and understand that, and you will get the results. Over here, how the Quran provides education and guidance to ourselves by pointing to our thinking process and inviting us to reflect in its verses. See how Quran is training us. This is education and training from the Quran directly. Now, over here, I've said that rewards are also for staying away from evil and wrong. We should keep it in mind that it is not only doing deeds which is important, it is also important to stay away from the wrongs of the man-made system and those wrongs which the Quran has pointed, and which includes our thoughts. We should know our thoughts. Brain will throw many wrong thoughts at us as well, because it's an emotive makeup. So we should be aware of them and get rid of them. Though it is a defensive measure, being aware of evil and those thoughts and deeds which degrade ourselves is part of expanding the horizon of our eye. And this helps to grow ourselves. Forbidding evil helps developing ourselves. Because by that, if we forbid evil, that means we will have to recognize evil first. We will have to recognize wrong first. It's no use saying that everyone is doing wrong, so I should keep quiet. No, we should, first stage is we should recognize it and get out of it and move away from it. And it takes time. This helps to recognize the society and its issues. Recognizing evil and then picking up courage to counter it using the Quranic guidance is part of self-development procedure. This includes writing letters, conveying, sending messages, phoning, sharing Quranic clips, giving books to people, sending emails, sending WhatsApp messages. So whatever means we have, we should do it with a view to develop our own self for the system of deen. Promoting good helps to develop ourselves. Good words spoken consciously help to expand our intellect and contribute to the good of a society. Wherever we get an opportunity, we should draw attention to many facts of life. For example, poverty in the world, injustice and exploitation, fact of our death, accountability. Sharing the Quranic message with others helps to develop own self as it strengthens our Iman. It is important that sometimes we may not be able to state something clearly ourselves, but pointing to a verse is far more, has a far higher impact because we are bringing Allah into it directly. So let Allah deal with these people whom we are giving the message, and leads to expanding the expanse of our consciousness. For example, when we do this and there is some response, depending upon the kind of response, we learn a lot about the human psyche. This is very important, that when we are giving the message, we should also see what response comes back. Sometimes people are not prepared for that, they will be quiet. Sometimes there might be an adverse reaction. Sometimes they might say something. And Quran mentions it, that when Rasulullah used to give a message, they will turn away their faces and state something quite offensive. We also learn about the human self, that others have their own choice and they are accountable for what they do. In case people do not like the Quran, then we understand all those verses which deal with this aspect. So that is how we get evidence, and that is good for our own development. Mutual consultation with a view to promote good helps to develop self. We learn continuously, and people look at different aspects differently depending upon their understanding. Hence, we should do some brainstorming on the issues of life facing humanity. And last point is, whatever we think and do, we should keep evaluating our self's growth. Quranic criteria helps to evaluate it. Hence, need to read some part of the Quran on a regular basis. So, study of the Quran can be targeted, and study of the Quran can be at random if we do not have any particular subject in mind. Because every time we go through a section, we should try going through just one verse. we should look at the context in which each verse is. For example, if the section starts from Amanu, just see what Amanu are expected to do, what instructions the Quran is giving to those who are mu'mineen. Now over here, I've quoted some verses from Surah Al-An'am, which I thought are absolutely brilliant in terms of itemizing some of the points of Amal Saleh. Qul ta'alu atlu ma harrama rabbukum alaykum alla tushriku bihi shay'a wa bil walidayni ihsanan wa la taqtulu awladakum min imlaq nahnu narzuqukum iyyahum wa la taqrabul fawahisha ma zahara minha wa ma batana wa la taqtulun nafs allati harramallahu illa bil haqq zalikum wassakum bihi la'allakum taqilun. What Quran is saying is that what is forbidden is from Rabb. See, again, this is forming part of the system of Rububiyyat. If we look at all the verses, there are 3 verses, they are all related to the system of Rububiyyat. Allah tushriku, do not mix anything with this formula. And with the mixing of this formula, the Quran is giving us instruction. And what are those instructions? Bil walidayni ihsan. And bil walidayni does not mean your parents and my parents, parents of everyone, all those who have children. So that is how we should look at it. Bil walidayni across the world. Across the world. Wala taqtulu awladakum min imlaq. Create the conditions so that your children, because the children are what mankind is. So they get everything what is required to develop their self and their means of sustenance. And the Quran over here puts emphasis imlaq, that poverty must be removed. Nahnu narzuqukum wa iyyahum. What a responsibility Allah has given us. That rizq of everyone is Allah's responsibility, and you go and do it. Don't sit down and don't think that you cannot do it. You can do it. La nukallifu nafsan illa wusaha means this. Wala taqrabul fawahisha ma zahara minha wa ma batana. And don't go near anything, taqrabu, which slows you down. It includes everything, whether it is our inner self's problems or outer problems that others try to slow us down. See how beautifully Quran sums it up here. Wala taqtulu nafsa, and this is how you should make sure that no self gets killed, gets destroyed. No self has to commit a suicide because their children could not get enough food. Illa bil haqq. See, haqq explains everything. Go back, there's a verse coming after that, and the haqq will, we should keep it in mind, this bil haqq here. Zalikum wassakum bihi la'allakum taqilun, and to the extremities of your intellect, use it here. Note the verse starts with shirk. I've already explained it. Man-made system will create all this. That is, man-made system will not provide anything but parents. Over here in the West, parents, what they get is food, and they are stuck in the homes. Their self is not taken care of. It's a miserable existence in these homes that I'm personally aware of. Children, they get rid of them. And children are once they are on their own feet, the parents, despite having money, they don't give it to them. It happens across the board. And rest of it, we all know that for Wahi, and for that, I don't have to say much. Then is all subsequent commands are collective, refer to inner states as well as physical outer world. Do not go near evil, visible and invisible. So see how much Quran puts emphasis on human psyche. Use of akal. Parents means every parent, not just my parents. Scale is different if we think our parents, same goes for children. If I'm helping my parents and not thinking of others' parents, then that deed will be of a lower scale than when I'm helping my parents, but at the same time, keep it in mind that every parent in the world deserves this. Nafs has an inherent respect and dignity. Al-Haq means it all, i.e. whole of the Quran is Al-Haq. Now let's look at the second verse. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا مَالَ الْيَتِيمِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ حَتَّى يَبْلُغَ أَشُدَّهُ Awful kaila wal mizana bil kiste la nukallifu nafsan illa wusaha. See again, Allah has repeated the same wording. Wa iza qultum fadilu walau kana da qurba wa bi ahdillahi awfu. See, it is now committing us to to a promise with Allah, a covenant with Allah. Zalikum wassakum bihi la'allakum tazakkarun. Over there it was taqilun, over here is tazakkarun. So over here, yatim. See how much Quran, we have seen it, how much Quran puts emphasis on yatim. Ahsanu hatta yabluga shuddahu. And this is a stage when deen hasn't yet been established. It's in a process, it's a transition phase. Ultimately, there will be no yatim in that society. Awful kaila wal mizana bil qist, very clear that do justice in everything. And remember, Quran has said that they do not weigh other human beings properly. That is, they don't take his self into account. La nukallifullahu nafsan illa wusaha. You can do it. We know you can do it. وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ فَعْدِلُوا, and establish justice. And don't be, tilted or take a sidetrack because somebody is nearer to you. There is no nearer. Everyone is equal in the system of deen, and we have to think like that. If I think equality all the time, then my deed will have a higher level than if I'm biased towards someone. And over here, then Quran says, make a commitment. Overage theme needs balance, ensure it is provided, scale defined here. Ensure absolute justice in all dealings, pointed to the system of deen. All this is possible if Rasulullah and Mu'mineen could do it, we all can do it. Convert to our thoughts into those of justice and equality. That is what I said, that we must convert it into justice all the time. And see that if in a system of deen, somebody comes to me and there is a bias, I will never ever be biased, and say what is justice. Be prepared to go against very near ones and let them know that no favors will be done. We have to tell all our relations, friends, everyone from our previous generation that justice will be done. So don't expect any favor. The system of deen makes it clear to everyone, right down to the bottom and right to the highest. Of course, it's a transitionary phase. That over here, justice will be done according to the book. Nobody is my friend. The only, and this is the job of the Mu'mineen, that they do it. Justice will be done, hence they must not do wrong. So they must not do wrong in the first place. And in fact, doing wrong should be made very difficult in this society. Psyche is being addressed at a profound level, leaving no iota of doubt for us. And we should start practicing it now within us. We should tell our families and friends and everyone that we must do justice. We can talk in third person, doesn't matter, but at least make a declaration, make a proclamation. This is being laid down clearly so that it becomes part of your consciousness, education, training, and zakat. Now, third verse this is the conclusion of it, these two verses. وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ وَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ تَعْقِلُونَ تَذَكَّرُونَ, and it is now culminating and being concluded with tattaqun, becoming a muttaqi. And it says, lead to this definition of Sirat al-Mustaqim. So Quran has made it very clear what is Sirat al-Mustaqim on which Allah is going. Quicker we grasp it, fuller the firmer will be our hold on this path. See, verily this is my Sirat al-Mustaqim. Allah is saying that. Fattabi'uhu. That fattabi'u. Sorry, wala fattabi'uhu. That you follow me, follow this path. Do not follow any other path. Quicker we grasp it fully, the firmer will be our hold on this path. Ittaba here, that is, train yourself from itaat, where we think clearly, we use our intellect, and then we accept the message. And we have accepted the message. We have got the Eimaan. And now we should come to this stage of ittaba, where there should be absolutely no resistance, suspicion anywhere within us. Follow the path defined by Allah. Scale defined here, pointing to need for our intense reflection and focus, and then obey. Want not to be divided about it, otherwise will be off Sirat al-Mustaqim. See, Quran has over here said, Fatafarraka, that if you went against this, وَلَا تَعْصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And wasakum, making this command leading to tattaqud. A tangible change must come within ourselves, signposted the whole thought and conduct. See how Quran in these three verses has addressed and asking us to change our psyche. That is our inner self. whole thought and conduct, and define the scales of doing things. Individual to collective system emerges before us in the light of the Quran. Kitabun Mubin. This is how Quran becomes Kitabun Mubin, makes its things perspicuous, very clear. And over here I have written that how should we scale our thinking and deeds? It is probably a bit of a repetition. Any righteous deeds without Iman do not have the ability to develop a self for the life of the hereafter. I have already mentioned it according to the Quran. Such a self can be checked from its understanding, belief system, character, outlook, and its aim and assumptions of its life. The Quran calls it the life of kufr with different shades, and we see it all around us. The change which comes in one's thinking through Iman is diametrically opposite of the thinking under kufr. And we have been in that stage where we did not have Iman, so we can relate to it. Very high scale becomes applicable to the deeds carried out after Iman. However, within these deeds, there are scales which increase with the increase in the strength of Iman. So proportionately, our deeds give us a higher return. Let me use the term from the capitalist system. And that is where we should put maximum investment. However, within these, there are scales which increase with the increase in the strength of Iman. For example, helping someone on a one-off basis has a different scale than to help to make them stand up on their own feet. The scale of a deed which includes aspects of the human self, not merely a material help, is higher. So if we take into account the self of others, then that deed will have a higher impact on ourselves than the one which does not include the aspects of human self. A deed initiated emotively after seeing the plight of someone is lower in scale. If we had the means to help others and we held on to that, and then the flood comes and we rush and help them, like I've seen people trying to collect funds for Palestinian help. So we should keep those things in mind, that emotive reactions have a very, very low scaling in terms of giving benefit to ourselves. Because we are dealing with Allah. We are not dealing with a human being who doesn't know our thoughts. Then a deed initiated before someone asked for help, i.e. by finding out at our own if someone needs help and then extending it voluntarily. Because when we inquire about these things, that is how we understand and convince ourselves for the system of deen. For example, if people are living in a floodplain because they cannot get land in a proper high places, and they are poor and they've got their huts over there. So as and when a flood will come, they will be just swept away. So what's the point of helping them then? If we can't build them a house where they are at a safe place and in the first place. Similarly, we have seen that they say, oh, these are unauthorized dwellings. What do you mean by unauthorized dwellings on Allah's land? There's no unauthorized dwelling. Human beings are allowed to build their house somewhere. The whole places are now drawn lines, and this is so and so's colony, and this is so and so's house. This land belongs to so and so lord and to somebody else. So this is all nonsense. So the system of deen should account for everyone, has to account for everyone. Everyone is authorized to have some place to live on Allah's land. Otherwise, this whole creation is pointless. After joining others with a view to work for the system of deen, for example, education, training, self-development gives boost to our deeds. And an individual deed after Iman has a lower value than the same action performed after joining the Jamaat. I've said it before as well. Even thoughts start to grow and develop when we join others. Verses addressed to Mu'mineen start to expand their meanings. We should remember that all these verses which are addressed to Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, they are pointing towards the system of deen. When we come together and discuss these together, we have essentially laid down the foundation of a system of deen at a conceptual level. And if we are finding a resistance to join it, then we better think again into it. Read the Quran again. We should look through it. Nothing should prevent us from going towards this if we want to resolve the issues of this life. These carried out deliberately and with focus bring a tangible change within ourselves about which we need to remain aware and we should relate it to some verse of the Quran. When we work for the system of deen, our individual understanding about the hereafter increases. Very important, because this life is linked to the hereafter. The establishment of deen and the desire for that is the one which is going to take ourselves higher and higher and higher. So that is the one which is linked to the next life. And the system of deen exists in the hereafter, as we have discussed under the presentation on death and the life in the hereafter. So we should keep that in mind. All we are doing is that in reverse order, the deen which exists in the hereafter, we are trying to establish it here with the help of Allah. That's it. This is what the Quran refers as the understanding about the elimination of fear and grief. And then see how why fear and grief should disappear. Finally, before conclusion, this is what I was talking about, this bil haq, that khalaqallahu samawati wal arda bil haq. Wale tujza kullu nafsin bima kasabat wa hum la yuzlamun. So the Quran over here says is Allah created the heavens and the earth bil haq, so that every nafs is recompensed for its work and none is treated unjustly. And we have gone through this verse a number of times before. What I've done over here is I have put it in reverse order, like Surah Nur's verse. Over here, there is no zulm with Allah. We must not have zulm in human word, aim and task of mu'mineen. See over here, if we look backward on this verse, wahum la yuzlamun. So in Allah's domain, there is no zulm. There is no injustice with anyone, and we know it. So all Allah is asking is in reverse order, that if you don't want zulm in your word, then what you do is those nufus, all those nafses, all those selves should come together who follow the Quran, need to work to ensure there is no zulm in the word. The law of requital will provide full support here. So Quran is very clearly saying, if you don't want zulm, come together and do those deeds, for which you will get a reward. And once you get the reward, the haqq will get established. And this is for what Quran has said, whole samawat and earth have been created by Allah. Very simple. See here, al-haq means that human efforts lead to constructive and established evidence-based results, which are carried out within the guidance of Wahi. Very simple. And then it says, universe and the earth have been created by Allah for Adam to ensure that al-haq prevails. Deen al-haq will be established through human hands. So law of requital over here will make sure, if we work backwards, that haq will be established and we will get Allah's help, because that is the fundamental purpose for which we have been created. Conclusions. The creation of Adam is for a very high purpose in this world, and everything which happens in the human world follows divine laws. Every human act, whether individual or collective, has a consequence. The world in 2021 is based on man-made laws, and this is why it has chaos, conflicts, fear, and grief in the world. Allah has provided the guidance of Wahi for mankind as an external guidance, and man is asked to accept it by choice and then follow it to counter the effects of the man-made system. Despite the man-made systems and their empowerment to subjugate other human beings, the Quran has spelled out very clearly that if Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen emerges by following Eimaan and Saleh deeds, then this will make the help of Allah available to them, an alternative route to counter the power of pharaohs of the world. So we have the recipe. We have the formula and we are on it. The only thing now which are already doing is to do Saleh deeds. The beginning of this process of acquiring this power is through Eimaan, and then this newly acquired Eimaan is to be strengthened by performing Saleh deeds with the full connivance of the human heart and mind. This process includes those individuals who are called Mu'mineen by Allah in the Quran, and the Quran provides complete guidance in this regard. These Mu'mineen dedicate their all energies and possessions to establish the system of deen so that mankind can be freed from the fear and grief created by the man-made systems. Until this system is established as a model, the mankind will continue to suffer from all those ills which the Quran has clearly noted. And with that, thank you very much for your time in sharing this presentation, its conclusions, and we go over to question and answer session.